Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my Summer Lunch and Learn series. I'm Helen Panos, owner of Dynamis Learning. It's a K through 12 tutoring, SAT, ACT prep company, and more. We do college essay writing and application assistance. We also are adding in Governor's Honors program for those kids who are applying for that or getting nominated for that. August through November is the time to look at that. If you need more information about that, contact me. But today we're talking about preteen planning, and we added this in last year as a program to Dynamis Learning, and we have been doing a few kids so far. It's going well. I have my tutor here, Erica, who is going to talk about that. Welcome, Erica, by the way.
Hi, Helen. Thanks for having me with you today.
I'm glad you could join me. I know you are the one who does this for the company, so it would only make sense to bring you on and ask you to elaborate a little bit more for our audience as to what can parents be doing and looking at, because this is not anything that schools are really doing. This is just, some of your high school counselors will say, yeah, we're doing that, but they're not. They're really looking at the credits and to see if your child has the credits, and they usually do it later, like in junior year, but we're talking 6th grade and up. So this is for middle school parents and up, and really 6th to 9th grade, because if you don't do it by then, it probably is a little bit more difficult. So how does academic planning help a student and family, and what is it actually, Erica?
Well, I guess let's start with the back half of that question. Let's start with what is it? So an academic plan looks at where a student currently is and takes their goals into consideration. What do they think they want to do in college? What things are they interested in if they don't know what they want to do as a post-secondary option? I hate to say in college, because we all know that some kids don't do that. They go to a trade school. They need to go into the workforce. They think they're going to the military. But what's going to set them up the best for whatever pathway they choose after they graduate with that high school diploma? So an academic plan lets you kind of build goals. That's all it is really a long range goal building sheet of, hey, these are the courses I think I'm interested in. This is what I think I want to do right now, but can I tweak it later? Absolutely. It's a living document. It's not set in stone. I didn't go get my chisel and, granite out. We can make adjustments. And it's important for twofold. One, like you said, the counselors may not always know the pathways. They know what's needed for credits. But in terms of, hey, if you barely pass math, do we want to take a math-based science right now? Not that you can't take it, but can we do it later? Or if we are wanting to go into the military, well, then why aren't you in the whatever version of ROTC, whether it's Naval ROTC, Army ROTC, things like that, to set yourself up with some of that stuff to where you could get those appointments to West Point and the Citadel and the Naval Academy. Or if you're interested in something that's hands-on that has a work certificate, like maybe you want to go into medical assisting to then possibly go get a nursing degree, but you need to scaffold because finances are an issue and you need to be able to work. How are we building in those pathways that a lot of schools already have so that we can do that? And so it is. So it's very much a flexible document. And just like your car, it needs a tune-up every now and then.
Yes, just like a car. I know you're having fun with your car right now.
Let's not talk about that.
I just took mine in too yesterday. Nice big amount of money. Gotta have mechanics around, just like you have to have tutors and academic planning.
Right.
So why should students have this type of academic plan?
I think one of the there's a few reasons. One of the first ones is so that the parent and the student has a stake in the game as to what's going on. Because I think a lot of parents rely on the school to do what's best for their kid, when in reality, if the kid needs to be challenged, if the kid needs extra support through a 504 or an IEP, or even with those supports, could they still be challenged to an honors or an AP course or a dual enrollment course? Having those discussions. But part of that academic planning also comes with us having discussions about, when should we take the SAT? When should we take the ACT? It ties into a lot of our other services. Because when I start laying stuff out for parents and they look at junior year and it's, oh my gosh, Johnny or Susie could be taking 6 AP classes.
Mm-hmm.
Can Johnny or Susie realistically handle that? If not, where do we back down? Where do we ramp up? Where can we move things, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle,
Yeah.
that fit? But unlike a jigsaw puzzle where there's one set image that it's trying to create, we have to make it unique to your kid. The other thing that's good for that is it gives a talking point for the parents and the students to not only have between themselves, but to use as a dialogue document with the schools. So that when that scheduling time happens, their input is being heard. Instead of classes being given to them, they are active participants in choosing them and setting it up.
Being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're all used to, now that you say that, thinking way back in the day when I was in school. I mean, you just sat there and as a parent,
you took whatever was on your schedule. You didn't have a choice.
Exactly.
The kids have so many choices these days between, do they want to take a class virtually? Do they want to take a dual enrollment? Do they want to do an in-person class? Do they want to do something with an AP? What level of the course do they want to take? Or if they're interested in a certain pathway or a certain magnet program, what do they need to be set up to get into it, but set up to stay into it as well?
Right.
And that ties into it as well, because Helen, you and I've worked together for a long time now, my friend. and we're well connected enough throughout multiple areas. If you're watching in the Metro Atlanta area, Helen and I know people in most of the major districts that we have these conversations with. And if you're not, we can still help you figure it out. Because I've been doing this for 18 years at this point. I've got my doctorate in curriculum and instruction. I know what the right pacing needs to look like. You can tell me what your school or your state needs. I can show you what the options can be.
It's interesting because I think back in the day, parents, the parents are probably like our age, and we were sitting in a different situation back in the day. Like you said, there weren't options. And I don't think people are realizing that you really need to approach even public school as a plan. Like sit down and look at it over. And it doesn't mean it can't change, which is kind of my next question. What if plans need to change?
Then plans change.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when a family contacts us and we do that initial appointment, it takes us an hour or so. But if we need to do a tune-up, I can typically do that in 15 to 30 minutes. I don't need a ton of time. And depending on the plan and the kid, they can honestly adjust it themselves because they know how things change. I mean, you and I've talked about my daughter, and I built her plan going into 8th grade because she wanted to take high school classes in middle school. We were kind of set up for that. She has access to the Google Doc that we created it in, and she adjusts it year by year based on what she's signed up for, what she thinks she's interested in for the next year. And, if she's gotten accepted, like this year, she got accepted into an internship program where she gets school credit and paid for it. And so that adjusted some of what she wanted to do. She goes, but Mom, that's going to give me some experience. It's going to look good in college. May not be a traditional academic class, but it's something that's going to make me look different compared to my peers. Let's do it.
We were just talking to a parent that, the young man is he's a rising 10th grader. He's in a private school in Roswell, and he needs the ACT, and he needs to get a 26.
Is he trying to do dual enrollment?
Yes, and he's got to take a pre-calc. And so if the father doesn't want to pay $1,000 for this course, then he needs a 26 on the ACT. He got a 23, which is pretty impressive with no prep.
Yeah, well, we talked about that. Eliza wasn't, my daughter was in the same situation, and she did a little bit of prep, did some with some of your guys, just even with some free webinars, hit that score. And I'm currently, waiting on her June test results because of the accommodations she receives to come out. But those are opportunities. People don't realize that dual enrollment is available starting for rising sophomores. It's not talked about. And it should be. But what's offered based on whether a kid has that ACT score or not is very different. If a kid doesn't get the ACT score of a 26, the state won't pay for a core class, but they'll pay for a career tech class. The kid could still take the core class, and like you said, the parent could pay for it. Now I'm cheap. I would rather pay for the ACT and a little bit of tutoring again than pay for the courses that she took last year.
Right. I mean, that's why I explained to him yesterday. And that's why they're starting Friday. Because they're in a
that's
hurry.
why all this stuff is so integrated and so important to have that conversation about early.
Mm-hmm.
Because
they're already talking about it. I said, does he know what school he wants to go to? And he's a football player. And he says, yeah, he really is falling in love with Tar Heels, with UNC. I mean, that doesn't mean that's where he's going to go, but I mean, that's kind of what he's aiming
But that's
for.
the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's already his goal.
Some sort of D1 school. Right. So what does that look like? What will they take in terms of dual enrollment? What will they take in terms of AP? Those are all conversations we can actually have as secondary conversations. Once we build that academic plan, you can literally book me for another hour or two, and we can do those conversations. How does this academic plan tie into our long-range planning for what those goals are? It's a different subset that we haven't done a ton of, but it's one that I know we can do.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot. Hey, my favorite statement has always been there's, parents don't know what they don't know because there's so much to know.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know because the way that education is now done is so different than what it was when you were the student. Technology has changed. The expectations for graduation have changed. The expectations for what post-secondary institutions want. It used to be that there were certain schools in the state of Georgia that was everybody's safety. And now some of these schools are some of the hardest ones to get into.
Right.
So what is your strategic plan and what are you going to do to set your kid up to get to those goals, to get to those points? And if you don't have those conversations early, to then start building in not only what am I going to take, but what does it mean? Am I going to have to change when I study? What does it mean when I need to prep for the ACT? What does it mean when I need to write that college essay? All of these things that you've been talking about, even when you did your intro, all tie together so much, but they all hinge on building this plan. This is the cornerstone to everything else.
And because we're talking about goals, I'm going to offer my free SMART goal planner sheet, actually, because I'm, thinking, wow, I love goals because I think I really want to talk about this more and more, which I will on my next, one of my Lunch and Learn series, because I think parents really need to get kids oriented toward goals. And really, what is this academic planning piece has to do with goals. Back everything up. Where do you want to go? What's the end in mind? What do you got to do for all the steps before that? SAT, ACT. What does your GPA got to look like? Are you going for a Zell scholarship? Are you going for the Hope scholarship? Are you going for outside? I just spoke to somebody out of Dallas, Texas a few minutes ago too, while you were messaging me. And she does a lot of scholarship stuff. And I met someone out of the country of Georgia. The young man goes to Walton High. He can't stay there any longer. She's in Georgia. They're got a winemaking business. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. This is all the different things that are going on. He needs to get into a boarding school here in the Atlanta area or somewhere, anywhere in the U.S. actually. So that, and he's amazing. I mean, he was showing me what he's making and doing already. And I was like blown away. He put me on his Facebook page and he's 16. So I'm like, yeah, so she's going to try to help him. I'm connecting them together so that they need funding. And they need to find the boarding school like pronto. So there's all kinds of variations of things going on out there. I'm blown away sometimes at all the different things that come across my desk to help kids. So,
but that's why. But in the end, that's why we're here. Because as educators, we wouldn't get into this if that wasn't the end goal. And yeah, do we do this on the side or you've taken, the full-time leap? Absolutely. But it's not because we don't care. And sometimes I think when you're relying only on the school, it's not that your school doesn't care. And please don't take it that I'm saying that. But the individuality and the attention to detail that you're going to get from us is so much different. And because of that, let us help you build that so that you can then go to your school confident going, my kid needs to be signed up for this when registration happens. Because registration, it used to be, when you didn't have that input, you just got your school and that schedule on the first day of school, and away you went. You got told who to go to first period, and that was it. And then you picked up your schedule. We build schedules in January and February, and we start trying to align what they call the master board to the number of kids who've signed up for things, to know they have the right number of sections. It is the most convoluted jigsaw puzzle you might ever see. But if your kid knows what they want and what they need, they're more likely to get into those classes and not just be stuck into something because they didn't register or because they didn't pick enough elective or connection classes, but that they're truly meeting that standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot out there. So reach out to us, guys, and we will guide you at least and tell you, just like this woman that approached me at church. I mean, I can't personally help her, maybe. Maybe we could do an academic planning thing with him. But it looks like he needs to go to a boarding school because he needs somewhere to stay. And the family that this young man from another country was staying with is they were going to be leaving Marietta. So he can't stay in that school district any longer. And he was born here. So, yep, it would be a shame if he doesn't get to do what he wants to do because he's very talented. I've seen his talent already.
You and I need to talk about him later because
okay. So everyone, there's all variations of things. We definitely say you should reach out to us before the end of the fall semester if you have a sixth grader, because teachers are usually making the plans for the next school year. They pick the courses for your children based on test scores. And really, we like to talk to you earlier in the fall because, again, if your child is like kind of getting a little bit lackadaisical, let's say, and
let's say they start slow.
Yeah, right. We definitely want to have a strong grade at the end of the first semester. That's important. We need to have good test scores if they're taking iReady or any of these other scores that and MAP tests that a lot of these school systems are using today. Those are very important. And if you're not getting the scores that you want and he wants or she wants, then we need to talk earlier for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're happy to do any type of academic planning with them so that they can finally see why they're in school, where they're going, what's the end result. And it can change and it's fluid. So thank you very much, Erica, again, for your time as usual. And everyone, we will be back next Wednesday for another Lunch and Learn series. Bye for now.
Have a good one, y'all.